What happens when a friendly morning show interview turns into a public breakdown that no one expected? When a calm, collected author suddenly unravels live on national TV? Today, we're revisiting one of the most talked about on-air moments involving best-selling writer Brandon Lake, whose appearance on the Today Show went from awkward to explosive in minutes. What began as a routine interview quickly became a raw confrontation that exposed deep frustration and emotion. Before we get into it, hit subscribe and share your thoughts, because this wasn't just another tense exchange. It was a moment that peeled back the mask of live television. The morning started normally. The studio buzzed with its usual energy as Hoda Kotb introduced her guest. Brandon Lake, celebrated for 3 back-to-back bestsellers, was there to promote his new thriller, a book already gaining attention for its dark tone and emotional depth. But while everyone expected an engaging chat about writing, no one predicted what would unfold. Hoda began with her trademark warmth. "We're here with author Brandon Lake, whose latest novel is already making waves. Good morning, Brandon." He gave a small smile, though something in his eyes hinted at unease. "Morning, Hoda. Though honestly, I'm not sure how this will go after the week I've had." Hoda, still smiling, asked lightly, "Rough week?" Brandon's reply was sharp. "Every interview lately feels like therapy instead of a talk about my book." Trying to steer things back, Hoda said, "When your stories dive so deep into emotion, people naturally wonder where it comes from. Your new one explores trauma, family, and identity." Brandon's tone turned tense. "And that's the issue. Everyone wants to study me instead of my writing. The story should speak for itself." Hoda nodded carefully. "Of course. But your main character's struggles do sound similar to things you've mentioned about your own past." His eyes flashed. "That's exactly what I mean. People assuming my fiction is confession." Hoda glanced at her notes. "You once said growing up without your dad shaped how you see trust and loss. That seems to echo in your book." Brandon leaned forward, irritation rising. "That was years ago, and I said it in a different context. It doesn't mean my characters are me." The mood shifted. "Many readers feel close to authors who share pieces of themselves," Hoda said softly. Brandon shook his head. "You mean they feed on pain? Every time I try to talk about craft or structure, someone drags it back to my past like it's public property?" "Brandon, I'm not trying to do that," Hoda replied. "Let's talk about your process. How do you create such real characters?" "Research and imagination," he said curtly. "Not by mining my trauma." "Still," Hoda continued, "most writers admit that personal experience shapes their art." Brandon gave a small, humorless laugh. "And that's why I avoid interviews. Because no one actually wants to hear about writing. They want the wounds." Silence fell. "Your work resonates with people," Hoda said gently. "Don't patronize me," Brandon snapped. "You've got a list of questions meant to hit emotional nerves. This isn't curiosity, it's performance." "Most guests are happy to talk about how life influences art," Hoda said, her tone tightening. "Most guests," Brandon said bitterly, "don't mind performing their pain. I do. I'm not here to sell heartbreak." "No one's asking you to," Hoda said firmly. "You brought these topics up yourself in past interviews." "And I regret it," Brandon replied. "Because now that's all anyone remembers." Off camera, the crew whispered. "You're being unfair," Hoda said carefully. "This is a book about family and loss." "Exactly," Brandon shot back. "Because those are universal themes. I'm not writing a diary. Does anyone ask Stephen King if he's lived through every horror he writes? Or if Gillian Flynn is as dark as her characters? No. But when I write something emotional, suddenly it's assumed to be confession." "That's not what I meant," Hoda said. "People are simply curious about the inspiration." "Curiosity," Brandon said coldly, "is just a polite word for intrusion. You don't want to understand the story. You want to expose the storyteller." Hoda tried to steady her voice. "That's not fair. Our goal is to connect with you." "Connect?" he repeated. "By digging into things I never agreed to discuss? You want me to break on camera so people will talk about it online?" "Brandon, you're a public figure," Hoda said. "You've spoken about these things before." "Once," he said sharply. "And it's haunted me ever since. I shared to be honest, not to give permission for everyone to dissect my life." "That's part of fame," Hoda said carefully. People care. No, Brandon said. They consume. They don't care about me. They care about the spectacle. You're being aggressive, Hoda warned. We invited you to discuss your book, not argue. No, Brandon said, standing halfway from his seat. You invited me so you could squeeze drama out of me. That's what this show thrives on. I've interviewed everyone from presidents to poets, Hoda said tightly. None of them behaved like this. Maybe because they didn't trust you, Brandon shot back. I did, and that was my mistake. You're crossing a line, Hoda said sharply. Maybe this is just a stunt for attention. The studio froze. Brandon's face went still. A stunt? He said quietly. You think I'd embarrass myself for publicity? Sit down, Brandon, Hoda said. We're live, but he didn't. No, you want to know why I'm angry? Because people like you turn every creative act into a confession booth. You mistake honesty for spectacle. That's unfair, Hoda said weakly. But Brandon wasn't done. Every time I write, people read it like a diary. If I write about pain, they assume it's mine. If I write about love, they think it's about someone I lost. Has imagination completely died? Writers draw from what they know, Hoda said softly. And there it is again, Brandon said, raising his voice. You can't let it go. You can't separate me from my work. The air in the room was heavy. Cameras stayed locked as crew members looked on, stunned. Brandon, please, Hoda said. We can stop here. Now you want to stop? Brandon said with a broken laugh. After you've pushed me to this point? You got the moment you wanted. I never wanted this, Hoda said quietly. Didn't you? Brandon asked, his voice trembling. This is what the media feeds on. Breakdowns dressed as interviews. He picked up his book, staring at its cover. You know what this story is about? He said softly. It's about losing privacy. About how every emotion becomes entertainment. About how people like you think they deserve someone's truth on command. He set it down gently. I wrote this as a warning, and now I'm living it. The studio fell silent. Finally, Hoda murmured, We're going to a break. Good, Brandon said, unclipping his mic. Because I'm done. Was Brandon justified in his anger, or did he take it too far? Did the questions cross a line, or did the tension come from somewhere deeper? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking moments from live television that left everyone speechless.